Hello everyone, my name is Grace, and today I'm going to show you the basics on how to develop a character. If you're a creative writer and you've been having trouble bringing your characters to life, then this video can be your starting point. If you're anything like me, you spent far too much time looking for good ways to develop the basics of a character. I, for one, used to use a form that was probably 100 questions long as a starter, and it's safe to say that was far too detailed. Since then, though, I've condensed this form into a 3-step process that works for me. That said, just because this process works for me does not mean it'll work for you. Creative writing is different for everyone, so if it turns out that this process doesn't work for you, don't fret and feel free to change it so that it fits your writing process. Now that that's out of the way, let's begin. So for this example, I'm going to be using a character from a fantasy series I'm writing named Iska. I always start by drawing my character in my sketchbook. This step is entirely optional. I find it helpful to have a visual beside me in case I get a little stuck, but feel no need to make as detailed or realistic of a drawing, or even make a drawing at all. This just helps me personally. Now that I have my visual, I can begin with the development process. Step 1, ask yourself, who is this character? In this case, who is Iska? I have a few questions here to answer, and you can answer these questions for your character along with me. First, what is your character's role in the story? Well, Iska is the main character and the narrator, so I'm going to go ahead and write that in. This can be anything from the main character to the antagonist to even a side character. Next, do they have a nickname? Iska does not, so I'm going to write an A for that one. Age, he is 20 years old. Next, we have nationality. Now, my story is fantasy, so the country that Iska is from is entirely made up, as well as for all the other characters. He is from a country called Zovoid, so I'm going to write that he is Zovoidian. Biological gender, he is male biologically. Then we have gender identity and pronouns. Iska is a gender fluid male, so I'm going to write that and that he uses he, they pronouns. Next we have sexuality, in which case Iska is pansexual. Then of course we have relationship status, in which case Iska is single. And finally, for this first part of the process, we want to think of 3 main personality traits for this character. In the case of Iska, he is quiet, gentle, and very tender-hearted. So I'm going to write that in. And once you're done with that form, you have the very basics of your character written onto paper or saved onto your laptop. Now we can move on to step 2. Step 2 involves another short form, but this one is specifically about the character's physical description. The form starts with the character's hair color and eye color, then gets a little more specific as it continues. You don't have to be super detailed with this part, but I choose to be as specific as I can when I come up with these details. For Iska, I'll write that his hair is pure white and his eyes are very light blue, though it doesn't show that in the visual. That'll come up later. Next we have skin tone, and I'm going to write that Iska has a light rosy skin color. For complexion, I'm going to write that Iska's skin is clear and very sensitive. Next are body type, height, and weight. For Iska, he is very thin and slender. He's about 5'8", so around average. And he is pretty small, so I'm going to write that he is 125 to 130 pounds. The next 2 lines are piercings and tattoos, and Iska doesn't have any, so I'm going to write none, but for this you can be as specific as you want to be. And this brings us to the last line, distinguishing features. This line is where you can be most creative with your details. Here you want to write the details that make your character stand out and what separates them from the rest of the characters in your cast. For Iska, we'll say that he is extremely fair and he has eyes that are light blue that change to completely white as it shows in the visual. Once you have the general appearance of your character down, we can move on to step 3, which I personally think is the most fun step. For step 3, you're allowed to take some creative liberties. All you have to do is write something small that has your character as the center. It can be a paragraph version of your character's physical description, a scene that you would like to be in your story, or a snatch of dialogue, anything you want it to be, really. For Iska, I chose to write a little bit about his childhood when he was adopted into his current family. And there you have it, a quicker process to develop your character. You want to start by writing down the basics of your character and who they are in the story, decide on a physical description, and write a paragraph or a scene that solidifies their place in the story. Remember that this process is what works for me, and that it is not guaranteed to work for everyone. I do hope that this process ends up being useful for you, and thanks for watching. Bye!